Good evening and welcome to the 23rd Annual Garden State Film Festival Filmmaker Interviews. My name is Mike Cassidy and I will be your host this evening as I have the pleasure of speaking with playing with incredible minds, Ruth Streeter and Gary Vanderberg. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Great. Good to be here.
Great.
Awesome. If you'd like, you can introduce yourselves to our audience watching. Let them know what you were involved with the film. And then, yeah, if that's okay.
Sure. I'm Ruth Streeter. I'm the executive producer, director, producer of this wonderful documentary. I spent 40 years at 60 Minutes as a producer. One of my beats was arts and culture. And then I got a fellowship at Harvard where I immersed myself in the arts and culture community there and fell in love with the Harvard Radcliffe Orchestra, which happens to be one of the oldest orchestras in the country. And why I fell in love with them was because they were so incredibly good. These are a bunch of amateurs who are all doing something else, like studying to be neuroscientists and economists. They play music on the side, but the music is almost as good as the top. So I decided it was important that we document how they do this and show other people how good this orchestra is and why.
Absolutely. Gary?
Hi, I'm Gary Vandenberg. Ruth and I met through a mutual colleague, and it was a very fortuitous meeting, as when I saw what Ruth had shot with her crew, I was really excited to have the opportunity to put it together. I've been an editor for, 35 years. I've spent a lot of time in post-production facilities in New York City, and I've been freelance for the last 20 years or so. And when I came to this project, I really had no knowledge of the Harvard Radcliffe Orchestra. And then when I saw what these college students, really kids, how mature and what they brought to the orchestra, I was honestly blown away. And I was really happy and excited that Ruth and I met. And, you know, when you see the film, you'll feel it.
Definitely. What else have you guys worked on together?
This is our first outing.
This is our first project.
Wow.
But, you know, like all good filmmaking, you know when you're in good shape because the editor, when the editor can get inside your head and finish your sentences on film, you know you've got the right. And Gary was one of those.
So what
I can add to that, you know, Ruth and I, there was a chemistry there almost immediately. And that is, like Ruth said, the editor-producer chemistry is really critical to making a good film. And we just fell into it, and it was almost like we'd known each other for a very long time.
That's awesome. What was the process creating this film?
Ruth?
Well, it was first an idea for me. I had this fellowship where I had the opportunity to go to classes at Harvard, at any of the schools, from the law school to the business school to the arts and sciences to the medical school. And I had actually graduated from Harvard, so I had a little bit of a sense of what was out there. And I decided to really focus on music courses. And I took a series of courses from the maestro, the conductor of the Harvard Radcliffe Orchestra. And he was so talented and smart. He's an Italian, as you'll see in the film, grew up in Rome. And I took a course on Mahler, on Brahms. And then I went to this HRO performances. They did Mahler 5. Mahler is, as you know, a very difficult piece of work, and they sounded better than the Boston Symphony, which I had seen that weekend. And I knew I had a great character in the maestro, and I knew I had great characters in the students. Harvard students are, listen, everyone makes fun of them and looks down on them. And, these kids in a sense. But these are incredibly talented kids. And, they're there because they've earned it. They're really hard workers, and they're smart. And they were incredibly articulate about the role of music in their lives. In a highly academic environment where they're expected to excel in other areas of their life, they also had to excel in music. And music became the place where became the place and was the place where they could express their visions. And anyone who paths know that it's pretty tough in those environments to have emotions. You're supposed to be a genius and be rational, and music is the opposite of that, of feeling. And wanted to capture the tension these students who were beside the maestro, who was expecting them to be as good as any great orchestra musician. And what happens when that happens?
Incredible. Gary, anything you'd like to add about what the process was like?
Anyway, well, I guess to push it forward.
Yeah. The process for me.
Well, just to push it forward
was. Yes. The process for me was really having an embarrassment of riches in terms of the footage and the interviews and everything that Ruth was able to get out in the field, and having Ruth as my maestro in terms of putting the piece together and laying out the order of sequences, and then letting me play with the orchestra, not in a musical sense, but in a visual and audio sense, playing with the orchestra and bringing that to life. It was just really, in terms of process for an editor, it was really liberating, because I was able to kind of bring what I do to the table, and Ruth let me go. She let me go. I honestly, minimal notes, and I just, I had a blast. The process was really fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It's really important to know that, when you shoot students, some of whom are under 18, but especially if you're in college, there are real restrictions. And Harvard had very serious restrictions on us. Clearly, if you're going to do a piece about an orchestra, you'd think that the obvious thing would be to go find the 4 top kids and go and hang out in their dorms and see them on Friday nights and go to their classes and see them in the library. Well, Harvard would only allow me to shoot rehearsal and shoot prep before rehearsal. So it was, for me as a 60-minute producer who does a tremendous amount of B-roll, this was really confining. I only could shoot in one building or going to the building or leaving the building, and then rehearsal and performance. So it was very difficult, and yet I'm trying to create character and get people to understand these kids and connect with them. So I just shot a lot. The process was I shot a lot of rehearsal, and we shot the performance, and we had all of this footage, but it was very specific footage. And then we had to make a story out of it. It was really a classic example of finding the story once you've shot the footage. So Gary was excellent at that. And you can see, if you watch the film, see the open and see how he creates a connection with the kids. and the orchestra and the sort of gorilla in the room, which is Harvard, which we never actually talk. We don't talk too much about it. The maestro talks about it. We didn't want to talk about it, you know. And Gary found the open and he found the close. That's great filmmaking when you're that restricted.
I agree, 100%. What the message you hope audiences leave with after watching your film? What do you hope they take away? Ruth or Gary?
You want me to go first again? I feel bad because Gary is so articulate as well. The message, well, there's two messages. One is a filmmaker message and one is a film message. Number one, the power of music. It gets under your skin, gets into your DNA, it moves your mind, it changes your life, and even changes lives of really, really, really smart kids who have so much going for them. But you know, it's pretty. The air up there in the highest heights is pretty thin, and music speaks to them because they're pretty stressed out, pretty anxious, they're driven kids. But music is a place where their minds can play and their hearts can play. And it gave them something that, you know, Harvard in this traditional way doesn't give them. Connection with others, connection with their classmates, connection with their audiences, connections with their maestro, and community and caring and feeling really matter. And that's not something Harvard necessarily gives you naturally. That's the filmmaker message. The second one is, I mean, that's the watch the film, and that's one of the messages. The filmmaker message is, you know, if you see something that really grabs your attention, and you know you have good characters, and you know you've got some conflict, and you know you have something exciting going on, just go and shoot it. Go and do it, because you'll find the story. There's a story there. You know, the story starts waving at you and punching you in the gut. That's what happened to me. I was sitting in those classes and those rehearsals going, oh my God, I've got to film this. I'll figure out the story somehow. It'll happen to me. It'll speak to me.
That's amazing. I definitely agree with you about music. It's incredible. Gary, do you have anything you'd like to add? I know you, Ruth said the box.
Ruth kind of nailed it. And I would say, the filmmaker message is if you have a story, shoot it, tell it, or, you know, it's there. I mean, to me, when I met these kids, it was really amazing to me how much music meant to them in the context of being a student at Harvard and having to deal with being a student at Harvard, having to be at the top of your game academically, and then finding the time to make music, which, you know, music is magic, and these kids found it. And as you'll see when you watch the film, I mean, the music becomes almost as important or more important to them than the academics, and you know, as it should be.
Unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our time together tonight. I had an absolute blast talking to you guys about your film. My final question is, will we be seeing you or other members of your team at the festival this year?
Oh, absolutely. And people who want to see this film, get up at 10:30 on Saturday and go to where is it? Go there, because that's when the film is getting aired. I'm sorry it's at Saturday at 10:30. We were really hoping for a much better time, but you know, this is sort of the prejudice. I think it's a prejudice. Classical music, Harvard. You know, we're fighting some tough stereotypes, but go and be surprised. Go and learn. Go and feel. Go and see. Probably something you don't normally get to see.
Definitely. Definitely.
And to repeat, Ruth, once again, that is Playing with Incredible Minds, playing Saturday, March 29th, block CT 35 at the Crampton Theater from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Thank you guys both so much. Ruth, Gary, it was great meeting you guys, and I can't wait to meet you in person at the festival this year. Of course. Have a great night.
You too. Take care.